Hi everyone, it's Lauren, the New Hampshire Stitcher. I'm here for my Flosstube number 8, which is going to be my June wrap-up video. So you may have seen that just about 2 weeks ago I did a whip parade video. That was a Flosstube extra, but I still wanted to film at the end of the month of June just to share with you everything that I've been up to this month. And you will see some repeat progress projects just because everything within my whip parade that I've worked on, but this episode will also have what I've done since that time, as well as the usual Flosstube things, so purchases and like floss tubes I'm watching, a little bit of knitting, some other things like that. And if you watch until the end of the cross stitching section, I have a little bit of a thank you today, so that will be in there as well, post cross stitch, pre knitting, and what I'm watching, reading, listening to, so stay tuned for that. The first thing I wanted to go over is finishes. I have been kind of a finishing machine in June. It had been a while since I was really finishing projects at all. Like, I think up until this point in the year, as of the time of my whip parade, I had maybe finished 5-ish things, a couple of which were pretty small. So it was getting to be that time, and I was feeling like I really wanted to get some things done. And in June, I ended up finishing 4 projects, and I will show them to you now. 2 of them, well, they were all in my whip parade, but 2 of them were already finished when you saw my whip parade, and 2 of them have been finished since then. So with that, let's jump in. There are, as usual, a lot of cars going by. It's like the first really nice day here in weeks, so I think a lot of people are outside riding their motorcycles and hopefully wearing a helmet and just enjoying the day. Also, it's a long weekend, so makes sense. All right, first finish. We have Sally Spencer Sampler by Birds of a Feather. I am realizing I probably want a board. Okay, so let's get to it with the finishes. P.S. If anyone knows of a good Etsy seller that makes the display boards, or if you make them and sell them, please let me know, because I just don't think I'm going to make one myself, but I'm really tired of using this piece of acid-free foam core. Okay, my first finish, this was a little bit earlier in June. This is Sally Spencer Sampler. Get close. This is by Birds of a Feather, and I stitched the sampler on 40 count Essampler by Color and Cotton, 1 thread over 2 linen threads. And you did see this finish in my whip parade. I'm showing it again. I really love it. The things that I changed here were I did not include any of the initials. There were 5 or 6 sets of initials in the original. I did not include those. And then also I did add personalization to the bottom. So what I will say about the personalization for this one is you can, to some extent, use the alphabet as a guide and use the lowercase parts of the alphabet as a guide for the second name or the middle name, but it is a little bit up to you. So if you're doing this sampler, I highly recommend charting it out in advance. I wasn't in a hurry, but I didn't really feel like putting in the correct amount of preparation. I was flying by the seat of my pants a little bit, and I do wish that I had pre-planned, and I would have moved my name Lauren over a couple of stitches or less spaces in between, and I ended up ripping out part of that red stem at the top of, or at the bottom of the right basket, and then moving the stem over a little bit to accommodate my name. So that is Sally Spencer Sampler by Birds of a Feather. Again, it is an out-of-print chart. You can often find it on eBay. So that is my finish of Sally Spencer Sampler by Birds of a Feather. All right, moving on to our next finish. I'll try to not throw my finishes across the room. Okay. Next finish, this was also in my Whip Parade, is Midnight Watch by Blackbird Designs. And I stitched this on 40 count winter woolens by Seraphim with all of the called for threads. And I did add personalization at the bottom for the year that I finished, 2023, and my initials. I had so much fun stitching this one. I will say the house and the moon are obviously very dense and I would not leave them until the end, but this border is also surprisingly time consuming. Just because it's pretty tight, the back and forth, and you have to pay attention to the border. So even though it looks very repetitive, the amount of stitches that you include for the interior buds varies depending on where you are in the chart. So it's repetitive, but you have to pay attention, if that makes sense. But this is absolutely beautiful. It is, again, back in print, so if you want to buy it, you can, and I highly recommend doing so. I know I say in every video that I'm going to frame things, but I do think I want to try to frame this one for fall, just because I don't have anything Halloween finished. I have a lot of fall things finished, like Feast of Friendship or Cinnamon Stars, but I don't have anything that's Halloween. So I would like to get that one into a frame. And on that same note, my next finish is here. This is Welcome Halloween by The Drawn Thread. And last you saw this in my Whip Parade, I believe I had done W-E in a portion of the L. I don't think that the pumpkin was finished. So let me show you up close. This was so fun. I took this out, I think I was working on this or had just taken it out to work on during my Whip Parade, or during that weekend, and I ended up just finishing it. It took me maybe 4 additional days to finish. I was probably doing about a letter a day, which was very doable. That some of the letters are denser than others, like obviously the O for the full moon took a little bit longer than the M with the skeleton, but this, as you might know, drawn thread patterns tend to have a lot of specialty stitches, and what I would recommend if you're doing one of these welcomes is that you stitch all of the non-specialty stitches first and then go back and do the specialty stitches, just because of the width of the pattern. I was doing it like the size, especially if you get the kit, the piece of fabric that they give you if you are a Q-snap stitcher or a hoop stitcher, it's only tall enough to put in a smaller height Q-snap, like an 8x8, or I think they make 6x6. And then when you're working on it, you obviously need to move all the way to the right, and I was definitely worried about putting specialty stitches like satin stitch underneath a Q-snap, so I ended up going pretty much all the way across without doing any specialty stitches, and then I reconfigured my 8x8 Q-snap into 8x14 so that this entire thing fit in the one Q-snap, and then I went all the way across and did my specialty stitches. This one has satin stitch, back stitch / long stitch, and I think that there are some elongated Smyrnas in the bottom of the witch's hat, but also the spiders are so fun and cute. I don't know exactly what you're seeing because it's hard to show this and still be looking at the camera. So that is my third finish, Welcome Halloween. And I have one final finish to show you today. It is fresh off the press. I just finished it this morning and ironed it and posted it on Instagram, and now I'm filming. But this is My Early Days by Plum Street Samplers, and I stitched this on 40 count pampas grass 1/2 with, I did use all of the called for threads, but I did make some thread changes. So let me show you up close. If you have been following along with me, you know that I've been working on this one for quite a while. I actually started it in June 2022. So technically my finish was not until July 2023, July 1st, but I did make a couple changes, so I want to note the changes that I made. So I have, let's see, the two deer were charted as, I believe, caper or bark. And I felt that mine were too green, so I ended up stitching both deer in grapevine, Weeks Dye Works grapevine. And then in addition, the small dogs at the bottom on each side were stitched in, I think that was what was caper. And I switched both dogs to Weeks Dye Works driftwood. And then I also switched one of the cats to be driftwood. Supposedly that's a cat. It doesn't look like any known animal to me, but when you get the full effect, it doesn't look too wild and out there. I also love the saying on this one. So it says, "Now in my early days, teach me thy will to know." I was definitely a very curious child, very into learning about things, constantly reading, always wanting to get my Christmas and birthday gifts were, science kits or DIY kits, craft kits. I had one that was like a archaeology kit where it comes with like a block of clay and you crack it open with like a child's chisel, which honestly I would do that now as an adult, but this sentiment really speaks to me in terms of how I felt about being a child and how I would hope to raise my kids as well. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about this. I know there's quite a bit of what I'm calling sneaky 1/1 or extras that you need to do probably at the end, again, if you're a Q-snap stitcher. So last night I had completely finished the grass and I finished this deer here. That was the last major piece I had to do. And so in my head, I'm thinking, I'm almost done with this. I can definitely finish tonight. And then I went back and looked at the chart page that has the list of all of the extra stitches you need to do. The long stitches, the back stitch, the satin stitch, the 1/1, etc. And that took me a good hour and a half to 2 hours this morning, just because I had not done any of it because of the Q-snap situation. So, I mean, I have no regrets. I think the piece looks absolutely amazing. I'm very bad at posing for the YouTube thumbnails, but maybe they'll take one from here. There we have it. Plum Street Samplers, my early days. You will finally hear me, well, you will not hear me complaining about the grass anymore because it's done. But watch me start Live on Little or The Gather In tomorrow and then be stitching and complaining about water or a large barn, TBD. So those are my finishes, and thank you for bearing with me as I re-showed Midnight Watch and Sally Spencer Sampler. Now we will get into my whips. So the first whip I wanted to show you is Summer Refreshes by Summer House Stitch Works, and I've shown this many times, and every time I've only done a little bit. This time I actually did a bunch. So when you saw it as of my whip parade, I had not gotten to the right side of the chart. So I did all the way down that red band on the right side. I stitched the bird. I stitched the motif next to the word summer. I also finished out the phrase Summer Refreshes, and then built out a significant portion of the house. So this one is coming along slowly. I don't know what it is about this one that I just can't seem to sit down and crank it out, but as you can see, really all I have left is that large vine flower and then to finish the house right there. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the next time you see me, this is gonna be done. I think I probably just made myself not do it in July, but we're gonna try. So that is Number 1, Summer Refreshes. Oh, I don't think I said the fabric for this one. This is actually a 36 count. This is Colonial Parchment by Fabrics by Stephanie, and I'm using the 3 called for DMC. And I think that is all the details about that one. All right, next up we have a recent-ish start, Garden Sampler. This is by Carriage House Samplings. And once again, I love how many people seem to be starting this or working on this recently. I know I've mentioned this before, but Amy Loves Toads is working on it. Laura from Lala D Stitches, I think, is starting it. I just watched her most recent video and she was showing her fabric, but I can't remember if it was a fresh start or a plan. I'll have to double check. And she's doing it on I think a grayish. My memory is not the best today, so if I'm completely wrong, I apologize. But yes, Garden Sampler, Carriage House Samplings. I am using, as a reminder, this Roxy Floss conversion that Hannah from Evertote put together for me. And it is being stitched on 40 count Ocean Air by Fox and Rabbit. And this is where I'm at. I am stitching 1/2. And this is so fun. It's so fun. I think this is the same as what you saw in the Whip Parade, I believe, but it is different since my end of May YouTube, which is when I had just started it. So since that previous Flosstube, but not the Whip Parade, I did D, E, F, and G. And I think I probably will get back to this one pretty soon. It's been in the back of my mind over the past few weeks, but I really wanted to get those few finishes in. So I have not worked on it. Okay. And those are my whips, so I had more finishes than anything else this month, which not a bad thing. Those were my whips. I did have 2 starts this month, one of which you saw in my Whip Parade, one of which you have not seen, at least here. I did post about it on Instagram. So the first one I'll put here is Sun Soaked, which is one of the patterns from Hello from Liz Matthews Patreon. And a couple other people are stitching this. Elizabeth Ann Can Stitches, as well as Jessica Sweetwater Stitcher, and then Liz Matthews herself did her model and I think is adding to the borders of it. But this is where I'm at. I have not added to, or no, I did add to this a little bit since my Whip Parade. Just one night I was thinking about what to work on, and I think I put in 2 or 3 threads just to do the top of the middle of the first flower and then some of the stars. And the needle minder you see there is actually Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch. It was the first needle minder she did maybe in 2021. I can't remember when exactly it was, but she put them on Etsy and I got one. So I thought it was appropriate, since she and I are doing a mini unofficial stitch along for this, that I would use her needle minder. And I'm stitching this, I don't think I said that yet, I'm stitching this on 40 count Cypress by Fiber on a Whim, which is the called for fabric. I wasn't sure if I had it, and I somehow had a piece. I think I had done a blue flower chart on the rest of it. I don't honestly recall. But the called for threads are DMC. They're really pretty. If you're not in Liz's Patreon, I definitely recommend it. I also saw this morning she posted the July charts too. One of them is a really sweet antique sampler that she recharted and charted it faithfully to the original, so there are, you know, missed stitches or changes like that. And then the other one is a re-release of something that she did under her old designer name in the early 2000s. So really excited to see both of those, and it's likely that you might see one or both of those on my channel in the coming months. Okay, that brings me to my final start, which I'm extremely excited about, and it is Marianne Kopp 1839 by With Thy Needle and Thread. this was one of the releases at Market, or around the time of Market this year, for Brenda Gervais. I've said before, at the time I didn't run out to get it, and then I started seeing some people stitching it. Specifically, the Virginia Stitcher is working on this one. I don't know if she showed it in her most recent video, which by the way was amazing, like so many beautiful whips. If you haven't watched that, definitely watch it. But I think she might have shown it in the video before. And then also Jody from Cedar River Linen / Trixie Tricycle is stitching this, and coincidentally I am using Cedar River Linen for the first time for this piece. So this is Marianne Kopp 1839, stitched on 46 count overcast by Cedar River Linen, and I am using all of the called for overdyed. I hope that you can see how absolutely stunning the colors are in this chart. I love this. I think I worked on this for about 3 days, and I completed maybe 90%, no, 75% of the first page. So there's another yellow and orange flower that goes at the top, and then there is the start of a cartouche next to the bird who is on his perch that I did not begin yet. And I absolutely love stitching on the overcast to the Cedar River Linen. The one thing I'll say, and this is not specific to hard linen, just I've never worked on 46 before, is that even with a size 28 needle, it is a little bit slower to get the needle through the fabric, just because the holes are smaller, a little bit harder to see, a little bit more tug to get the needle through. And so my stitching slowed down significantly when I was working on this. I wanted to pay really close attention. Obviously I want this to come out as intended. I don't want to miss any stitches because the border is a little bit finicky in the counting, but something to keep in mind, especially with 46 count. Oh, I love it so much. I hope it comes across. And these are the called for threads. So this is part of the reason that I couldn't help but start this project. They are stunning. I'm not doing a good job. Not doing a good job of showing them to you, but there are really pretty oranges and blues and pinks and teals, which you rarely see that many colors of different families in a sampler like this, at least in terms of what I stitch, particularly the orange. So when I got this chart, I was under the impression that that house was red. No, it is orange. It is Weeks Dye Works Clockwork. And I think the way that I'm gonna approach this is I'm up here. So I think I'm gonna work my way down the side to get to the heavier stitching, and then come across to do the house, and then go back up. And then I'm gonna have the last thing I do be the cartouche and that absolutely stunning berry basket. So I can't wait to get back to this one. All right, that is all my stitching, physical stitching. I did have some purchases this month. So in addition to what I'm about to show you, I bought a good chunk of the threads for Marianne Kopp 1839, and some threads that you'll see in my plans, so charts that I already had but I bought the threads for. But the first purchase that I made is right here. This is a full coverage chart. It is called Woman in a Field of Flowers, I believe, and I saw this kind of going around Instagram. I pulled the trigger after I saw Marjorie Maid post about it in a recent video. I have not kitted it up. I have not bought the very extensive list of DMC or fabric. I guess I would probably want to buy some kind of easy grid fabric, but I'm still feeling pretty intimidated by this one, which I think is why I have not started kitting it up. If anyone else is stitching this or has full coverage advice for newbies, would love to hear it, because I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed and I would like to do this, but I think the commitment of it all being like probably a 5 to 10 year project is what's stopping me. The next thing that I purchased, or I placed an order with 123 Stitch, and I've started collecting the Garden Club series from Blackbird Designs. So with this round of purchases, I bought the first 3. So we have Basket of Cherries, Apple Orchard, and Honeybee. And I don't have any of the threads for them yet. I think my approach with this one is going to be to, every time I place an order, every couple months, I'll buy a few of them. When I'm done buying them, I'll assess what threads, I'll probably make a complete thread list for the 12-part series, assess what I have, and then start filling in the gaps. So I don't anticipate that I'm going to start this anytime soon, but like I said in my video a couple videos ago, I do want to start collecting these just so that I can have them on hand. This might be a good New Year start. Next year, the following year, I feel like that would be a fun thing to do for like a big New Year start. That's the first thing from 123 Stitch. And then I got, and I'm sorry that this is shiny, but I think you know what it looks like. I got Summer Quaker by Leela's Studio, and I plan to participate in the Live in the Sunshine sale. I think that's the right hashtag that Hugo Stitcher is going to be doing as of August. And I have not bought the DMC threads yet. I want to see what I have on hand, but I did pick a fabric as long as the threads look good on it. So this is Color and Cotton 40 count Sandcastle. And it's like a very pale tan with like a tiny hint of peach in it. So it does look very sandy, but there's a little bit of peach there as well. And I thought that would be really fun, especially with the name, given the fact that it's an ocean scene. And then the last thing that I purchased from 123 Stitch, let me just move these over, is, should we take it out? I'm sorry about the crinkles. I purchased the chart for Moira Blackburn's 3 Things Sampler. So let this serve as a reminder to you that I am hosting a stitch along, which I am calling Back to School. I am not going back to school, but I miss the days of purchasing fresh folders, fresh binders, fresh pens, decking out my locker. So in lieu of that, I will purchase a fresh chart and fresh threads and fresh fabric, probably a project bag. If you would like to participate in Back to School, there are really no rules other than that I'm starting on September 1st. You don't have to. And I would encourage you to pick your largest WIP or kitted project or chart that you would like to purchase and start, and just go for it and get those big pieces started. And I can't wait to see what everybody else chooses. So along those same lines, actually I should say, I'm not going to take these out of the packaging, but I did purchase the Vicky Clayton silks for 3 Things. This does not do them justice. I will maybe post a better picture that I took the other night here. They are so shiny and so smooth, and I'm thinking, so as I've talked about before, I do like to put silks on floss drops just because it's easier and I'm not super precious about my threads. However, I'm thinking for added protection for this one, I might buy some of the Adam Hart floss drop bobbins, where it can be floss drop lengths of thread but then wound around the bobbin for a little bit of additional protection. And then I guess I will have to find one of those project folders where you can slide the bobbins in, but I know it will be very hard for me, but I'll manage. Okay, those are my purchases. Flosstube recommendations. The first one I actually already mentioned, but I'll mention it again. It's Jody from Cedar River Linen Trixie Tricycle. She had not posted in a while. She posted a new video this week. It was almost 2 hours long. It was full of eye candy. I want to stitch everything that she's stitching. She does absolutely beautiful work, in addition to making amazing linen for us to stitch on. And I just love watching her. I feel like I find her very enjoyable to listen to and to stitch along with. The other two, it's funny because right before I started filming this video, I was preparing all of my things and I was watching Sarah from Sarah's Stitchy Spot. Hi Sarah, I love watching you. And her two recommendations were the people that I have listed in my recommendations, but they're very deserving of it, so I'm gonna list them out here. First person is Lindsay from Cat Fur and Cross Stitch, and she, I think, has 3 videos now. The first one was an epic whip parade, and then she's had 2 more traditional floss tubes since then. Honestly, her delivery is as though she's been doing floss tube for years. She's so natural. I love listening to her. Love her projects. She works on absolutely beautiful small, medium, large pieces, all different kinds of styles, and I just think that she's, you know, super fun to listen to. And there's a lot of pet appearances as well, which I enjoy. And the other person is Karen H. She just started. She has 1 video, and it was, again, extremely enjoyable to listen to. I can't believe it was her first floss tube. Her projects are gorgeous. She also referenced the fact that she was only showing us a portion of her projects. So Karen, I want to see all the rest of them because she stitches a ton of like Plum Street and things that are very much up my alley. You should go check Karen out, as well as Lindsay. Jody's been around for a little while, so if you haven't gone over to her channel, see what she's up to. She's back and posting again. I think she intends to post a little bit more frequently. And if there's anyone new that you're watching, I would love to hear who they are. I'm, as discussed, always adding to my Flosstube queue. And what I'll say later is that, like, I haven't been watching anything other than Flosstube in the past month. If I'm not at work or listening to an audiobook while I stitch, I'm pretty much watching Flosstube. So that is my recommendations. Those are my recommendations. Correct grammar, please. Plans. I have some plans for July. Whether or not I will do them is, as usual, up in the air. The first thing is I want to get to my summer salt boxes. So hosting a sale along with Caitlin, Cross Stitch Kate, and Jessica Sweetwater Stitcher for the salt box, or I guess technically they're called the Salt Shaker series. So I've been saying that wrong for months, but the summer salt boxes are where I'm at. And I just purchased the remaining threads that I needed. This one is pretty much all classic colorworks and very like soft summery colors, so not so much like brights and neons for summer, but like a pale blue and green and gray and pink. Really pretty. My hope is that in July I might stitch the first of the 2 with the sheep. We'll see. And my other plan, which I did not necessarily anticipate and then got a wild hair that I wanted to do this, is Christmas in July. And what I've decided to do for Christmas in July is Stacy Nash Deck the Coop Pin Keep, which I received in the Kitten Stitcher Advent calendar in the end of 2021. And I always thought it was really cute, but just hadn't done anything with it. And I actually, when I was at the World in Stitches in Littleton, Massachusetts, she had, this was this past year, so when this was released widely, at World in Stitches, she had just stitched up the model, and it is much bigger than I anticipated, like pretty substantial. She said it was a good amount of stitching, and it was so pretty. So with that being said, I'm going to stitch Deck the Coop on my remaining piece of Seraphim Winter Woolens, which is what I stitched Midnight Watch on. And these are the called for threads. They're all Weeks Dye Works. They're really pretty combination, like definitely Christmassy, but not, it doesn't scream Christmas to me despite being mostly reds and greens. So we have Schneckley, Cocoa, Sanguine, Tin Roof, Oscar, Red Rocks, Lily Pad, etc. I didn't need to read you that whole list, but I'm actually pretty jazzed to start this. I genuinely had no intention of doing Christmas in July until I thought about this, and we'll see what happens. So that brings us to my thank you section of the video and my first giveaway. So I've never done a giveaway before, but I really appreciate all the support and comments and like outreach, direct messages on Instagram that everyone has sent me over the past 6 months. I have felt so welcomed on Flosstube, and as a thank you and celebration of I hit 5,000 subscribers pretty recently, I wanted to do some giveaways. So I have 5 items, and bear with me if I'm not super good at the details here because this is the first time, but please be 18, please be a subscriber. For this particular giveaway, please be in the US or Canada. I will consider doing more international giveaways later, but for this first one, while I'm figuring things out, it would be helpful for me to only be doing the US and Canada. And I did create an email, newhampshirestitcher@gmail.com. I will put it in the description bar. So that's just like a general FYI if you want to email me, but also I will be using it to communicate for the giveaway now and in the future. And for each one, we'll just do a number, and I'm gonna go through them. And if you would like to potentially win that one, put the number. If you are interested in all of them, put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And would love for you to tell me what I like how Olivia from Pumpkin Hollow Quilts asks you to answer a question. So my question would be, what is your biggest project that you're working on right now? You don't have to participate in the stitch along or have any intention of doing so. Just tell me, what is the biggest project you're working on right now? Could be, doesn't even have to be cross stitch. Could be sewing, knitting, quilting, whatever. Would love to hear what it is. We'll probably add a bunch of them to my wish list. Okay, enough rambling. I have 3 charts, and I'll start with those. So the first chart is Heartstring Samplery, Key to My Heart. I should say too, all 3 of the charts are my charts, so they have been gently used, but I do take good care of them, and hopefully that's okay with you. If you're not interested in a gently used chart, just don't enter for these 3 giveaways. First one is Heartstring Samplery, Key to My Heart. That is number 1. Number 2, in honor of the holiday weekend and this being a little bit more of a patriotic stitch, we have Plum Street Samplers, the Equality Sampler. Again, that's 2. Number 3, My Home in the Garden by Hello from Liz Matthews. Again, I'm trying to be on theme a little bit with the summer here. Number 3. And then 4 and 5 are 2 pieces of fabric. So they're both Picture This Plus. They're both from 1, 2, 3 Stitch. They've not been stitched on, cut. They're fat quarters. They have not been used in any way. They even have the stickers still. So with that being said, the first one is a piece of Picture This Plus 28 count earthen. I stitched the blue flower, oh shoot, I Count Not My Day Complete. I forget the name of the chart. I'll put a picture of my finish here. I stitched that on 36 count earthen. This is 28 count earthen. This is number 4. And the last one, number 5, is 32 count Picture This Plus Heroic. Ooh. Heroic. And Heroic is like a very dirty neutral with tones of red and blue, like faded red and blue. Let me see if I can show you more of the red and blue. That is Heroic. And that is number 5. So if you are interested in any of them, all of them, put as many numbers as you want, and I will draw the winners between now and, or I'll draw the winners before my next video. So I will announce the winners in my next video, and I will ask the winners to email me at that new address. Okay, I think that's everything cross stitch. So I have about a few more minutes to talk about knitting, some things I'm reading, listening to, And if this is where I leave you, then thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, potentially a long weekend if you have Monday off or are celebrating the holiday on Tuesday. I'm generally not a huge 4th of July person, but I did take off Monday to give myself a longer weekend, and I have my parents coming in tomorrow for a night, so my husband and I will get dinner with them and just enjoy being home for a few days. All right, so knitting. I feel pointless even showing this to you because I have knit so little this month, but again, this is my knitting bag from the Scrappy Thread on Etsy. She has a shop update tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm not 100% sure, but if this video gets posted before that and you're interested in these bags, she's having a shop update on Sunday, July 2nd. And what I'm stitching is the Half and Half Triangles wrap by Pearl Soho. And what I've done is kind of pitiful. It's this. So last time you saw it, I probably had a cast on in a couple rows. So I have done like some knitting, but definitely not every day or even every week. And the rows right now are really long. I'm doing German short rows for this, so each row is about, I'm at about 160 stitches right now, but because it's a German short row, when you get to the 160th stitch, you're then turning your work around and going all the way back across. So one row repeat, however you want to refer to it, is over 300 stitches. Or yeah, over 300 right now, and that will continue to decrease, but at the moment it's pretty slow going. That being said, I absolutely love this yarn. It is the Stress Knits yarn in Copper Boom on her favorite base. It is absolutely beautiful, and she just had a Taylor Swift yarn drop about a week ago. I didn't participate in that yarn drop, but then she created another color called Afterglow. I'll put a picture here, that I think was part of that, but was so popular that she ended up deciding to do a pre-order for it this week. So I pre-ordered 2 skeins of Afterglow in the DK weight so that I could use that for a restart on my pressed flowers shawl, and then I'll need to find maybe like a cream color or something like that to go with it to be the flowers. I'm hoping I'm putting something here to show you what I'm talking about, but I'll use the Afterglow as the main color and then find like a cream DK weight to be the flowers or the secondary color in that shawl. And if you want to see progress on that, Hannah from Microbiologist Makes actually continued with her pressed flowers shawl, and I don't think she showed it in the video that she just posted, but it's in the previous video. It looks really cool, so it's motivating me to get back to it. And also with the Half and Half Triangles wrap, it is truly just knitting till your hands fall off. So it might be nice to take a break from that occasionally and do something a little bit more challenging with the pressed flowers wrap. Okay, reading, watching, listening. I don't think I did this last month. I have been reading quite a bit. I'm not going to list every book that I've read here, but I'll highlight one of them, which is Remarkably Bright Creatures. And I finished this about a week or two ago. And actually Katie, the novel stitcher, either just finished or is currently reading this, but she had a good book review of it in one of her recent videos. This is about a woman named Tova who's in her 70s. Her husband has passed away in recent years, and tragically she and her husband had lost their only son when he was 18 in some kind of accident that's never really been properly explained. At her current phase of life, Tova has a job as a cleaner at the local aquarium. This takes place in the Pacific Northwest, and she becomes really interested in the giant Pacific octopus that lives at the aquarium. And I don't want to give too much away, but it's about her sort of figuring out her life in terms of where she's at now, but also coming to terms with what has happened to her family over the years. It was very moving. I loved it. I actually listened to it, and I was not a big audiobook person, but I did recently, maybe 2 months ago, I think before we went on vacation, I subscribed to Audible because while we were in St. Lucia, I wanted to be able to listen to some books, and I'm really liking it. I definitely am reading reviews to make sure that the reviews say that the narrator is sort of doing the book justice, because I think my past hang-ups with audiobooks have been narrators that I just couldn't really that didn't resonate with me, I'll say that. And this one was very good. There was 2 narrators, one for Tova and all the other characters, and then one for the voice of the octopus. So I definitely recommend reading Remarkably Bright Creatures. In terms of what I'm watching, as I said before, like 99% Flosstube. If I'm watching anything, I've never really been a huge TV person, but I did watch on Amazon Prime the new documentary Shiny Happy People about the Duggar family and IBLP Institute. I don't know if that's the right terminology. That was fascinating and disturbing. So if you like documentaries or that's something that interests you, I believe that's available on Amazon Prime. And then the last thing I'll talk about is what I've been listening to for the past few weeks, month-ish. And the podcast that I would say comes to mind the most is called Scamanda. So the words scam and Amanda, Scamanda. And it is a pretty popular podcast right now. It's about a woman who was faking having cancer for years, 10 plus years, and just the story behind how it all happened. So over the course of these years, she was telling friends, family, her church, nonprofit organizations that she had cancer, and reaping the monetary or in-kind donations of generous people and organizations that wanted to help her. And so this podcast explores how that came to pass and ultimately what happened when a particular journalist decided to investigate the situation because she felt that it seemed off to her. Fascinating. It was great for dog walking. Each episode is about 45 minutes, so they were coming out once a week. Now, if you listen to it, they're all out. There's 8 episodes, and then there's been 1 bonus episode so far. So definitely recommend that. And I think that brings me to the end. I'm toying with the idea, please don't hold me to this, I'm toying with the idea of coming back in 2 weeks, at least over the course of the summer, like the next couple months. I have a pretty quiet July, knock on wood. So it seems like it could be possible to come back a little bit more frequently and do like mini episodes, maybe less than a half hour, but we shall see. You might just see me on July 30th, TBD. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful day, night, weekend, whenever you're watching this. And thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.